The victory horns have sounded. And you know who the victory horns are sounding for? Yes, they're they're sounding for Max Holloway, but they're sounding for us all because the real winners were the fans who woke up early, that stayed with it, and got to watch a main event that delivered between Max Holloway and the Korean Zombie, the final fight of one of the most exciting fighters of all time in the Korean Zombie. Max Holloway gets a incredible finish to add to his resume. A fight with so much emotion and it was just so much fun, and it exceeded everyone's sort of low expectations for it. But we tried to tell you on the preview show, this fight was going to be way more fun than you think it's going to be. And we're here to take a victory lap. But someone on this panel was saying this far before that, and we'll get to that in a moment. But thank you for joining us for the live UFC Singapore post-fight show here on MMAfighting.com. I am Mike Heck. Been up since 4:15 a.m. Eastern time for this, and I'm so glad I did because it's a super violent card. I'm here with the wise wordsmith, Shaheen Al-Shatti, my bald brethren. We're rocking the Korean Zombie t-shirt. I'm sure there's a lot of emotion here. Excited to hear what Shaheen had to say about all this. And the Prince of Positivity, my best friend, who is also emotional in the aftermath of this. He's got that dog in him, folks. Mr. Alexander K. Lee. Hi, AK. Sorry to ruin the intro.
Hello, everyone.
Oh, we're changing colors
Hello.
here. Oh,
Yep, there it is.
There it
Yeah, my favorite. My favorite. Thanks, Casey.
Oh, man. So, Shaheen, I will begin with you because we watched the final fight, hopefully, at this point, of the Korean Zombie's career. Because what better way to go out? You go out, third round begins, you bite down your mouthpiece, you do zombie things. Yeah, you get colded by Max Holloway. It was a nasty knockout, but if there's any other way for Zombie to go out after the emotional walkout, the way the first two rounds went, getting hurt in the first round, hurting Max in the first round, the way everything went down, this was about as fitting of an ending to an incredible career, especially from an excitement level for the Korean Zombie. Was it not? Like, just emotions all around, everything that went into it. How did you react to the retirement, the fight, all of it? I just felt like it was so fitting.
It was fitting is the perfect word. Zombied up until the very end, right? I mean, I think we, like me in particular, right? I can only speak for me personally. Going into this fight, I felt a looming sense of dread that I think is very common for us to feel as consumers of the sport, fans of the sport, right? When it comes to our legends in these retirement fights, especially when they're fighting someone as good as Max, we've just been so conditioned to expect the worst, right? I coming in, I was just praying that this wasn't going to be a 5-round beatdown, a 5th-round TKO where Zombie takes another 300 shots in this career that he's already taken so many different shots, and it's just this depressing scene, and we get something like that. And instead, the man delivered as he always does. He went out on his shield as he always does, and really, he went out on his own terms. And to me, I know he got knocked out. I mean, Casey, we were talking about this on the pre-show of how it, he got knocked out ultimately. So this was some sort of bad ending for him, but it did feel like there was a sense of satisfaction that came from it, right? Like he truly went out on his own terms in that second round to nearly get finished in the way he did, and then to storm back in the third and say, you know what, man, it really felt like Zombie flipped that switch and said, it's either going to be me or it's going to be you, Max, and we're going to figure this out real quick. And it played out that way, and it was incredible theater. It's one of the most exciting sequences we've seen all year from a man who has given us some of the most exciting sequences in the history of this sport, one of the most consistently exciting performers we've ever seen lace up a pair of 4-ounce gloves. And everything was perfect, man. Like, there have been a lot of bad retirements in MMA over the last couple of years. We are hitting a really weird stretch here where we're getting like some actually good ones that make you feel real things, and the UFC is handling it well. They had a great video package afterwards. The walkout, I mean, my God, that walkout. I had chills coming from that. Someone started cutting onions in my house at 8 a.m. that I was not expecting for that walkout. All of it was just great, tremendous theater, a great ode to one of the all-time exciting action fighter legends in this sport. And really, man, I mean, there was a time in MMA where you couldn't go to an event without seeing at least 2 or 3 or 4 of these shirts, right? Like, just in the crowd. Like, Korean Zombie means something different to a lot of people. This is very similar. He's not Robbie Lawler, right? So I don't want to tie him to the Robbie Lawler knockout, but that just happened recently, so it's fresh in our minds. There's something to be said about these fan favorites, these guys who have given us so much and really sacrifice so much of themselves, their bodies, their livelihoods for these incredible memories that they give us by the time they leave. And just like Robbie Lawler, Korean Zombie is someone who I am sure all of us on this show, everyone watching at home, everyone who watched that fight has a Rolodex in their head of just the amazing memories, the unforgettable memories that this man gave us. And for him to be able to give us one more on the way out, like, obviously the fairy tale ending would have been for him to upset Max Holloway, but if he can't do that, this to me feels like a second best type of opportunity for us. This was incredible. This was awesome, man. Like, this is what you'd want from something like this.
Yeah, and AK, we were talking about this in the preview show yesterday. Casey was talking about how, like, on that side of the world in MMA, it's not just about, going out with a win. It's about going out, with everything that your reputation is built, but you almost want to put over the other guy. And I feel like Zombie has so much respect for Max Holloway, and just the way that it all played out. If Zombie could draw it up, even like beating Max Holloway would have been super cool and an incredible upset. And what a story. Can you imagine what we'd be talking about right now? But this almost seems like the way Zombie wanted it, like, have a good fight, prove people wrong that he could still compete with the best in the world, and just go out on his shield. And that's exactly what he did, AK. How emotional was this for you watching it from the walkouts? Even Holloway's walkout was super emotional with everything that was on his mind. And we knew there'd be a lot of emotion in this fight, but seeing how the fight went down, that third round, him biting out on the mouthpiece, his head kind of hitting the canvas and then getting up like nothing happened and then walking away. What did you feel? What are you feeling now, probably 40 minutes after it went down?
I thought I'd prepared myself. We've had a lot of time to think about this fight and think about this matchup, this fight week. I was keeping up with a lot of the interviews, and it still didn't quite hit me. There was a little bit of Zombie, giving himself that crack of leaving the door open of like, well, we'll see how Saturday night goes. It could be my last fight. We'll see how it goes. I think all of us won because we assumed Holloway would win. But even if it had been a more competitive fight and Zombie lost, I still think he would have walked away. I don't know if there's anything other than a shock win that might have kept him around. And even if he won, that might have been the match to him, getting a flash KO of Max Holloway. He probably still retires. That's probably like, well, now I know I really got to go out. So even him saying that didn't throw me off too much. But yeah, this morning, and boy, morning MMA is fantastic. I started to feel it. I started to think about it. And as the fight's getting closer and closer, I started to think about what Zombie means to me, what he means to so much of the fighting community. And once that music came, boy, that trademark walkout, and kudos to UFC production team. They just nailed it. All the angles, all the crowd shots they got, bringing in cranking the music up. A little bit of commentary didn't kill it, I thought. I know a lot of people would have liked it just sort of the walkout. I think a little bit of commentary was fine. Didn't have a problem with it. It was so excellent. They really captured the moment beautifully. This is going to make for a great compilation clip later. I'm sure they'll throw the whole walkout up on YouTube if they're smart. And then watching the fight itself play out was wonderful. We knew Max was gonna outpace him, was gonna out counter him, was gonna outstrike him. That was inevitable. The fact that Zombie still had moments were so enjoyable and so fun to watch. And the third round went probably exactly as it should have, because I think Zombie, you could see he knew he lost the first two rounds. And he's like, well, I'm not going out like that. I'm not going to get outpointed. So he says he rushing out, gets KO'd. The moment was great. He was already smiling as he regained, once he regained consciousness, and Holloway went over to check on him and help him up. It was a great moment, man. I definitely got legitimately teary-eyed. You don't get that all the time in MMA, especially, like I said, when we're talking about these supposed last fights. Often where our eyes are covered with our hands, not with tears, if to put it away. And I'm still processing a little bit. I might, it might hit me again later today, but this was a really nice way, I think, for Zombie to go out. As nice as you can go when you get face plant, like KO'd like that. But yeah, nothing but positive thoughts, I think, about how this was all set up, and about Zombie's career, and about how it ended. So I'm a happy boy right now.
Yeah, and then for Max, 28 fights in the UFC, has not been dropped a single time, which is absolutely ridiculous. Just an absolutely legendary chin. His striking numbers just continued to climb and climb and climb. And Shaheen, Max Holloway, a walk-off KO, his first finish since December of 2018 when he stopped Brian Ortega. It has been a long time since we've had a Max Holloway fight not go to the cards, but Max had Zombie hurt real bad in the second round. He tried to walk off there, and the ref's like, what the hell are you doing? And he's like, I could just punch this man in the face, but you know what? I'm going to put him in a submission. I'm going to treat him almost like the Khabib, Justin Gaethje type of scenario where I could break this man's arm, but I'm going to transition into a triangle. Compassion from Max Holloway, as to be expected from a man like that. What did you think of the second round? Like, Max had him badly hurt. He could have gotten him out of there, and he was just like, nope, and then jumped on a submission, and Zombie fought out, and the rest of that round was absolute chaos.
Nice guy, Max, man. What a gent. what a mensch that guy is, right? Like, you could definitely tell, and he spoke about it a little in the post show too on ESPN Plus of just like, this is a legend, right? Like, I don't want to hurt this man that I care for so much and that means so much to me, more than I do need to. And so, I thought that was cool to see, frankly. And ultimately it set up just that tremendous scene in the third round and Zombie just going all for broke, all or nothing in that moment. So all of it was just very cool theater. And ultimately, Max Holloway, man, like, what can you say about this guy at this point that we haven't already said? If you go back to 2014, this man is 18-0 now at featherweight when he's not fighting Alexander Volkanovski. He's 18-0 against every other man in the featherweight division not named Alexander Volkanovski since 2014. That's obscene, man. Like, that's obscene. Like, I know he is in a weird spot forever because of the Volk stuff and the trilogy and just the way that all played out. But man, you go back, you look at all the history of just these type of setups, right? Where there's a Joseph Benavidez a Franklin, right? Rich Franklin coined it with the Franklin zone. That was a nickname given to him when he was stuck behind Anderson Silva. We have had a lot of different iterations of this type of person, right? This type of fighter, this guy who is so much better than everybody else, but just not able to get over the championship hump when it comes to the guy who's holding the belt. Robert Whittaker, recent example as well. Man, Max Holloway might be the best version of this person in the fight game that we've ever seen, right? Like, 18-0 over almost a 10-year span against anybody who's not possibly the greatest featherweight of all time in Alexander Volkanovski. Like, it's just crazy, man. It's absolutely crazy that this man is consistently doing this every time out. You'd think you would slip on a banana peel at some point, but he just comes through. That's what Max Holloway does. And he's only 31. Like, I know that's we say he's only 31 in the way that we said Jose Aldo was 31 when he was like entering that phase of his career too, right? These guys who build up all these mileage early on. But it's just incredible to me that this is still just like happening in this way, right? And I'm not going to just act like this wasn't a fight that Max should have obviously won, right? Like, he was a big favorite for a reason. But again, we say it all the time when it comes to title defenses. The hardest thing to do is to defend your title over and over and over and over again against all these various challenges, because at some point you're just going to have a bad night. And even on Max's bad nights, he gets it done. So it's just tremendous, man. And also the emotion that you've seen from him all week, just carrying, the heaviness because of the Maui wildfires and just everything that's going on in Hawaii right now. You could tell there were a lot of elements to this that made this an important fight for Max just personally. And it felt like it meant a lot to him this week. And just A+ performance, man. Again, once again, it seems like every time we talk about this guy, and it's not a Volk fight, we're saying this, but it's no different this morning.
Yeah, and credit to the UFC with everything they did with Max as well. Let him wear the red shorts, let him carry out a flag. Like, they didn't have to do that. And we would dump on the UFC if they didn't, but they let him do it, and everything was great. Like, everything about this main event was great from everybody involved, from Max to Zombie to the UFC to, Fitzgerald, Felder, and Bisping, just like laying back and letting these moments happen. Like, it was super duper cool. And AK kind of building on Max Holloway. And this is something that I was saying and Jed was saying and most of us have been saying, that Max might not have his fastball anymore, but the man is still damn good. But boy, did Max find that Nolan Ryan-esque isms in this fight, did he not? Like, whether it was the emotion or not, Max is throwing 98, 99 out there. He was looking to put Zombie away. He was not looking to go 25 minutes with this man. And as soon as Zombie came out and started chucking mitts at him, you could see the look in Holloway's face like, okay, I'm about to knock this man out. And that's exactly what he did. Max looked pretty damn good. He looked like a killer in there. This wasn't I'm going to pepper this man, throw 500 strikes, Max Holloway. This is I'm going to put this guy unconscious, Max Holloway, despite him probably retiring after this. What do you think of Max's performances and him finding the fastball tonight?
Yeah, well, I don't think Zombie gave him a choice. I think at some point Zombie was just in his face. The first time he dropped him, Zombie's like in his face, right? They're like, Zombie wants to get in there. He wants him to exchange. Max is just a brilliant counter striker. He's so composed. I can't remember what he hit him with. I don't know if it was a short uppercut or a short counter. It just happened so quickly. And then the knockout blow is a little bit more of a looping, like you said, kind of fastball. And he has lost a bit off his fastball. Like maybe he used to throw 98, 99. But because he's mastered all the off-speed stuff, Mike, now let's say he throws 93, 94, but his off-speed stuff is so good that 93, 94 still feels like 99. And in this case, when you're dealing with an aggressive opponent like Zombie, when they run into your shot like that, it definitely feels like a 99, 100 mile per hour fastball to the head. So yes, he doesn't throw quite as quickly as he used to, quite as hard as he used to, but tonight he didn't need to. He was so technically outstanding. I see some people saying, like, did he carry Zombie in the fight a little bit, just to keep it entertaining and out of respect because it was the last fight? I think there's some element to that, but also Max Holloway, when's the last time he put someone away in the first round? It's not like he can just run it. He could just run in and smoke Zombie. That's not what he does. It's not what he's going to do. So it's one reason why I like this matchup so much, because I always felt it was going to go at least deep into round 2. Round 3 finish would have probably been my prediction. So it ended exactly as most people I think would have predicted, round 3 or round 4. And that's just the nature of the way Max fights. He's technical, he's respectful, he respected Zombie's power, and he had to. There is a world where Zombie knocks him out. I mean, he was landing, but Max is super tough. We talk about all the wars he's been in, and we keep saying that chin has to drop off sometime, and I don't know if I've seen it yet. It will. It happens to everyone. It has not happened yet. He's just made of sterner stuff. Because some of those shots that Zombie landed would have, I don't know, I'm not saying they would have knocked someone out cold. They would have rocked other fighters. But Max can just eat them and just keep coming forward and keep finding his timing and keep slipping punches and reestablish himself. It's just incredible to watch. So as much as we cherished Zombie's retirement, and I don't think anyone here took Zombie's career for granted. Let's not take Max Holloway's career for granted either. Maybe he's not fighting for the title right now. Maybe he doesn't get a title shot again as long as Volkanovski's on top. But every time we get to see this guy fight, it's a privilege. So enjoy him now while he's here. Maybe he fights for another 5 years. Maybe he fights for another 2 years. We don't know. But let's not wait until the end, to appreciate what we're seeing from this guy every time they trot him out there for a 5-rounder and put on these exciting fights. Yeah, he's just the best. He's the best.
I have to say too, one thing that I love about just the way that all of this has played out over the course of all these years, right? Like, we remember the Lames moment with Max Holloway, iconic moment, like frankly one of the most iconic moments in MMA of the last 10 years, right? It feels like since we saw that initial sequence between Max Holloway and Ricardo Lamas, it's such a beloved moment and scene that we've seen many versions of it play out in all these various other Max Holloway fights and even other people's fights, but Max Holloway fights in particular, where the other guy is like, "Hey man, you want to just do this? You want to just make this a little bit of a scene right now?" And it's so fun. It's so fun every time. This is one of the best running gimmicks going in MMA at this point. And the fact that Zombie, of all guys, is going to be the one to end his career with that exact type of thing of dude, let's just do the Halamas. Let's just do this right now. Me and you both know this needs to end at some point here soon. So cool, man. It's so cool. MMA is the best. This is why you love MMA. MMA is the absolute best, man. To wake up, I woke up at 7 a.m. This stuff was already ongoing, and then you get to catch something beautiful and meaningful like that before it's even breakfast time. It's gorgeous, man. You have to love it.
I mean, it just put everybody in a great space. Even Conor McGregor was tweeting positive stuff today. When was the last time Conor tweeted positive about anything? Putting people over. Putting Max over. When was the last time he put Max over on Twitter? Usually it leads to hey, my booze is better than the booze you like. And F you, Max Holloway. But it was, no, Max effing Holloway, you're the guy. So even put Conor in a great headspace. So I'm
just so glad you two got to share the cage. I'm so glad they got to share the cage.
Yeah,
that was another reason. 100%. That was another reason I loved the matchup, was because Zombie's record is, I'm just looking at this list: Volkanovski, Ortega, Frankie Edgar, Yair, Jose Aldo, Poirier, even Leonard Garcia. Leonard Garcia is I don't want to say a legend, but certainly someone I'm sure he enjoyed having on his record. But the first few names I mentioned there, legends, the best of the best of the best at featherweight, and now he's fought them all. There's no name at featherweight where he's like, well, I wish I'd gotten to step into that cage with them. We just mentioned McGregor, maybe, but I mean, that's probably was never on Zombie's radar.
That's so short-lived, it's hard to say, right?
All the people he wanted to fight, he got to fight. That's why I was so happy he got this matchup. Holloway, more than happy to accommodate. He has so much respect for the Zombie. So that's when this was made and when this was even talked about. I was like, yeah, do it. Let's just do it. If this is going to be the end, what a fun way to go out, to say I got to go up against, the best, or one of the best featherweights ever. He's fought all three. Whatever discussion you want, Holloway, Volkanovski, Aldo, he's fought them all. No regrets. No regrets for this man. And that's not, you can't say that about a lot of fighters when it comes to their resumes.
To add to that real quickly too, the main reason I am so glad that we were able to get this fight in this matchup, because when this we saw it after Max beat Arnold, and this sort of just came up organically, and then everyone sort of unanimously was like, oh, like that might actually be a really good idea. We don't even know what's going on with Korean Zombie. I am so happy that Chan Sung Jung was able to get a day like today and a week like this week, to have people celebrating him, to have this type of walkout, to have this sort of iconic setup, and then this moment, right? This final finishing sequence, even if it didn't go his way. Because if this is the final time that we see Korean Zombie, which it probably is, it is so much more fitting and proper in what this all should be, rather than seeing him just get beaten to a pulp by Alexander Volkanovski in what would have been the final scene of his career had this not happened. And just sort of this sad, depressing scene that, again, is sort of just what we get for all of our legends for the most part, and until recently, right? Like, this is not Robbie Lawler, and I wouldn't say it's close to Robbie Lawler, but it's not Shogun Hua either. Like, this is such a different thing. And if we had ended with the Volk fight and we had just never seen Korean Zombie again, and it's just like, hey, that's how you go out. You go out on your back getting smashed to pieces. That would have been such a bigger bummer and such a disrespect to the legacy that this dude left behind, and like what he means for not only me, not only Max, but like all of us in MMA, right? Like, if you've been in MMA long enough to have the sort of shared experiences that we all have with Korean Zombie, to be with it from the beginning, right? From WEC with Leonard Garcia and the Twister and the Wars and all of this, and then the unexpected title run all the way to the Jose Aldo fight, and then sort of the second career afterwards he had after the military service, and this unexpected revival that he almost had late, where another title run. All of it is just so magical, so many incredible moments, and I'm just, again, so thankful that he was able to get a night or a day like today, rather than it ending however long ago that was against Volkanovski a year or two ago.
And he ended his career with a post-fight bonus. Fight of the night, him and Max Holloway. First bonus since the Frankie Edgar knockout, and that was in December of 2019. Lost to Brian Ortega, beat Dan Ige, lost to Volk, and ends his career with a fun fight, crazy-ass fight, zombie-esque fight, and he gets a fight of the night on top of it. Mr. Featherweight bonus himself. We salute you, the Korean Zombie. You're the man, and there will be an immediate damn they were good, I would assume, that we're going to record probably coming up this week, which will make Jose Youngs extremely happy. Other bonuses goes to Junior Tafa for his knockout of Pacaporta, as AK said, probably the biggest.
I don't know what you're talking about. That never happened ever. I don't. That seems
maybe the biggest. Yeah, maybe the biggest upset in the history of the sport, right there. But Junior gets it done. The Tafas are now 2-0 against Pacaporta. I think there's a couple of other Tafa brothers out there, maybe some cousins that Parker could try to exact some revenge against. But so far, 0-2 against the Tafas. And Mikhail Olszewski gets the other bonus for his comeback knockout of Chidi and Njokuani. That fight was absolutely insane. If you guys were sleeping through that one, you didn't want to watch the prelims because you needed to get some extra hours of sleep, go back and watch that one. That's about as wild as you expected it to be. But let's move on to some of the other storylines that happened. Shaheen, Anthony Smith, back in the win column, defeats Ryan Spann. Speaking of 2-0, Anthony Smith out 2-0 against Ryan Spann. Ryan Spann had Anthony Smith in big trouble in the second round. Lets Anthony get his wits to him. Anthony's eye is all messed up. Anthony came back a little bit in round 2, so it wasn't really a 10-8. And then we go to the cards and we take a trip to Splitty City, and Anthony Smith defeats Ryan Spann in the co-main event. Shaheen, your thoughts on the fight, the decision, and Anthony Smith getting back into the win column despite not coming out to his signature song, Mark Morrison's Return of the Mac.
I mean, when you come out to Eazy-E, right, I can't really criticize that. If you're going to switch to something, switching to Eazy-E is like a pretty great choice. You're going to switch to something if you got to break routine. It was a good win. I mean, I know this was the rematch we were all heavily anticipating and waiting for, the one that we couldn't wait to happen. But man, I mean, all credit to Anthony Smith. That man showed the heart. This is gonna be so cliche to say, but he showed the heart of a lion once again, right? Like, he was so badly hurt in that second round. It really felt like this was inches away from getting finished in that second round, and for him to be able to persevere through that, and then eke out that third round and really steal that victory on the scorecards. Hell of a performance, hell of a win for a guy who I think is obviously in sort of the closing chapters of whatever his run is as a contender. Sort of keeps him alive in this mix. Now, I do have to say though, I mean, this came, we were talking about in our Slack room after this fight, but just the way MMA's scoring system continues to operate and function is just so dumb and stupid to me, and it will ever be dumb and stupid to me. Because if that second round for Ryan Spann is the exact same level of meaningful as the very, very close first round and very, very close third round is for Anthony Smith, like, we just have a broken scoring system, right? Because, like, there's no way on earth that you should be able to watch that second round and it not be worth something more substantial than these incredibly close back and forth rounds that sort of sandwiched in between it. But, you know, that's a broader discussion about MMA scoring that we've all had 1,000 times. It remains dumb to me, but Anthony Smith, that's the system we play under, and he got a hell of a win for it. And again, he's back in contention now.
Yes, he is. You know who else is back, AK? Giga Chikaze is back. First fight since getting thumped up by Calvin Kattar last January. Beats Alex Caceres. Ariel Helwani reported, and I actually confirmed this as well with Abe Kawa, Alex Caceres broke his forearm in the first round. The first kick Giga threw that Caceres blocked broke the man's forearm, and he went the entire 15 minutes with Giga Chikaze. Chikaze gets a 30-27 on all three scorecards. He is back after the long layoff. What did you think of Giga Chikaze's performance? And, man, the heart and grit on Alex Caceres fighting one of the best strikers of the division, essentially with one arm.
First, I'm glad you didn't ask me about the Spann Smith fight, because that performance just made me so angry. And Shaheen's right about the scoring. What a screwy way to say that Anthony Smith won that fight. Which, again, I think by the way the scoring system works, he did. But by the way, like, human logic works, neither guy won that fight. But yeah, no, Chikaze Caceres. I'm not as down on Giga's performance as I think some people are. Yeah, it was a favorable style matchup. This is a fight he probably could have finished, but this is his first fight in a while. This is 600 days. He's not a super young guy. It was just his birthday yesterday, I think, on Friday. I think he just turned 35 years old. So he's not a super young guy. He has combat sports experience outside of MMA. So bouncing back from like a 600-day layoff, I think when you're older, I don't think it's that easy, right? And I don't want to take away from Caceres either, because Caceres fought really well. Like, Caceres is. Looking, I got my stats here. This was his 29th UFC appearance. He's a gamer, man. I mean, he's not an easy out for anybody. There might be some style matchups that are just, like, definitely not in his favor. Like, it's actually, like, I remember Cron Gracie kind of ran through him, but that's rare. That's rare for Caceres. More often than not, Caceres is in the fight. He's giving people problems. He's a tricky matchup. He's a tricky matchup. I don't know how heavily Giga was favored. I imagine at least 2-1, like maybe minus 300. I'm not sure. I didn't look at the odds there. I get it, because great UFC resume, great record, a lot of hype before, that Calvin Kattar one-sided drubbing. So I get it. People still expected more. And when they see the name like Alex Caceres, they see a guy who's a veteran in the UFC who's not a title threat. And we viewed Giga like that, before he went this long layoff. We're like, well, this guy's getting fast track to the title, or he's going to make it. Now we have to adjust our expectations. Is he necessarily a lock to be a top 5 guy to challenge for the title someday? Maybe not. But I don't want to poop on this performance too much, because I still kind of impressed that he performed well, and battled through some adversity in this fight. So not a performance that we're all going to remember on the Giga Chikaze highlight reel someday, but a solid win. And I enjoyed the post-fight antics. Maybe the timing wasn't right. Maybe you'd like to see him do that kind of a funny bit after he has a more convincing, entertaining win, because I don't think the crowd quite was into it when he did it. But he got me. I got tricked a little bit. I thought there was a chance he might retire. But yeah, he won't be doing that again. We all know Dana White and the UFC are not amused by the fake retirements. So maybe a minus overall if we're evaluating that promo. But I thought it was funny.
No way.
And I enjoyed being fooled.
No way. That was great. Come on.
I liked it.
That was great.
But I know some people were like, was this really the timing for it? Coming off kind of a, forgettable
Yeah.
decision.
He's not going to be coming off a crazy long layoff like that, hopefully ever
Yeah.
again. Like he's not maybe not get another chance to drag that out. I thought that was great.
I
Right?
like the
Like you
promo.
don't have a win's a win. Man
Yeah,
hasn't been in the cage for like 2 years.
Separate from the performance, like in a void, I like the promo. I thought it made sense.
Yeah, he had a B- night, and I think the promo took it from like a C+ to a B-, if we're being honest. Like it was a fine
100%.
performance. Hearing that Bruce Leroy only had one arm kind of dings him a little bit. I understand the long layoff. And I posted this on Twitter, and this is not meant to be like a prick at all, but Giga knocked the rust off. He got a win, and that's great. But Volkanovski, Ilya Taporia, Movsar Evloev, Max Holloway, the top 5 guys, they're going to sleep super comfortable tonight after watching that performance. Like, good performance. Giga is going to be a top 10, top 12 guy for probably the rest of his career, and that's damn good. But I don't think he's going to be fighting for a title. I don't think we're going to get to that point, but still, you could have a very long and fruitful career being one of the 10 best fighters in the world in your weight class, which is a very loaded weight class, which one that continues to get better and better and better. Much like Bantamweight, Rinya Nakamura, another guy we're going to be keeping our eye on, improved to 8-0, dominant win over Fernie Garcia, unanimous decision.
Wow.
A lot of people thought that fight would get finished pretty quickly, but Fernie Garcia, his new nickname is the Unfinishable. You cannot finish this man. It's absolutely impossible. But I do want to talk about one other fight on this main card before we go to the peeps. Aaron Blanchfield just continues to pass these tests, gets this Tyler Santos matchup. Everyone thought this was going to be sort of the, at this point, because she's only 24. So even if Aaron Blanchfield lost this fight to Tyler Santos, it stings. It stunts the really quick title run early on in her UFC run, but wouldn't have been the worst thing in the world. First round, Tyler Santos looked incredible. It was her first fight since the Valentina fight in June of last year, which happened to be in Singapore as well. And then Aaron Blanchfield just turned into a freaking bulldozer, man. She just wants to tackle people. She'll throw shoulders. She'll grapple. She'll make it real grimy. A lot of top control in round 2. And then she just kind of damage barred Tyler Santos through round 3. Just chipped away and chipped away and chipped away. Aaron Blanchfield now 6-0 in the UFC, and she just passed the toughest test of her career, and she wants a title shot, Shaheen Al-Shatti. She wants the winner of the Noche UFC main event, the rematch between Alexa Grasso and Valentina Shevchenko, which is going down on September 16th. We also have a big fight in this division coming up next Saturday in Paris, more early day MMA. Rose Namajunas bumping up to 125 to fight Manon Fiorot, who's been quietly on a really good run herself. So what did you take away from Aaron Blanchfield's performance? She wants a title shot. Are you ready to give it to her, or do we have to wait until next week and see how this all goes?
I mean, if I'm Aaron Blanchfield right now, I am the biggest Alexa Grasso fan in the entire damn world, because of course she deserves it. It's obvious that she deserved it before. She deserved it before this rematch was booked, but of course you have to give Valentina Shevchenko the rematch. I don't know, man. I know a lot of people are probably gonna dump on this performance, gonna say it moves her farther away from a title shot because it wasn't some fun, super exciting fight against a really tough person in Tyler Santos. But I think incredibly freaking highly of Tyler Santos, especially after last time out when, I think there's an argument to be made that she should have won that decision against Valentina, and she probably does win that decision if sort of the events of the later rounds, her getting injured in the way that she did, don't happen. I don't know, man. I was still really impressed. If you're able to slap 8 minutes of control time on a person like Tyler Santos, like that's good to me, man. Like Aaron Blanchfield, I feel like we all sort of understand, right, that she is this champion in waiting. It feels as if she is just waiting for that coronation moment, that opportunity to be able to go out and take it. If Alexa Grasso gets it done against Valentina Shevchenko, that is the fight you have to book. Like, I understand Rose Namajunas may have a bigger name, and you maybe want to wait for that fight and see if Rose slips into that opportunity. Rose Namajunas has also submitted a lot of terrible stinkers and bad fights into the archives of the UFC resumes, right? Like, she's had some really great fights and fun fights, but she's also had the worst title fight of all time, and that was her last fight. The last time we saw her was the Carla Esparza rematch. So, like, I don't know if there needs to be some giant rush to rush Rose in if she manages to get the win in her debut coming up here at 25. To me, this is Aaron Blanchfield's division in waiting. We're just waiting for it. If Grasso wins, You have to do that. There's no other fight out there right now that would make sense. I was so, again, not the most exciting performance. I'm not going to try to tell you that it wasn't, but it's really hard to beat a person like Tyler Santos in an exciting way. And I came away very impressed by Erin Blanchfield and remain impressed and think that she's a future champion in this division. If Valentina wins, obviously I feel like they're going to end up just doing a trilogy. So that then pauses everything. And then maybe we talk about Erin facing this Rose man in winter. Seems like she's very open to continue fighting. At least in the pre-fight, she was saying that. So we'll see. We have to wait for the result. But if things play out and the title stays in the same hands, you have to give Erin Blanchfield that shot. This is her division. We're just waiting for it.
I feel like if Rose wins, Erin's kind of hosed here because of, I mean, look, it was a great performance. And it tells you something about a 24-year-old who, you know, she went to plan A, didn't really work. Plan B wasn't really working. Plan C was, I'm just going to get punched in the face over and over and over again and not block a single one of them in round one. And then plan D just worked. I'm just going to just chuck my shoulder at her and just wear away at her, get this fight to the ground, and then just kind of wear her down. And that's exactly what she did. AK, even at 24 years old, she didn't have a tremendous performance, but she still beat Tyler Santos, who's really, really good. Took Valentina Shevchenko to the limit. So to me, I feel like if Rose wins, she's probably not getting a title shot. And that's okay because she's only going to get better. She still won and wasn't her best night at the office. She'll probably be the first one to tell you that. I haven't watched her post-fight stuff, but I assume that's the case. If Rose wins, she gets a title fight. Even if Valentina wins, I still think they'll just go right to Rose versus Valentina because why the hell not? Let's just try to get the biggest fight in this division's history, which that would be by a mile. But what did you take away from Erin Blanchfield tonight? Or this morning? I keep saying tonight because I'm looking at the clock. It's 12:40. I think it's 12:40.
It's tonight in
not
Singapore.
PM.
It's tonight in
Singapore people. Yeah, the shout to our people in Singapore. It's tonight over there. I'm with you, my best friend. I'm Mr. Slow Burn. People know that. But at the same time, I do think that she is now number one backup as far as contender goes. I wouldn't be surprised to see her weigh in for whatever the next title fight is. Just she won't be the number one choice. I will talk about the performance in a second, but I will say one of the reasons is I hate to say this because it just shouldn't matter, but she just doesn't have the personality type that jumps out for the UFC. She's called cold-blooded for a reason, right? Part of it is her personality. Part of it is her approach to promos and approach to the fight game. It doesn't mean she doesn't know how to talk. I think she's actually a decent interview. I think she's a decent media day person, but she's not that grandiose, loudmouth person that the UFC loves, and that sucks. And if she had that larger than life personality, she would have fought for the title yesterday. You know, we wouldn't even be having this discussion. But she isn't. She is young, so that's why I'm fine with it. At that same token, if the UFC is taking that into account, her only being 24 years old, then that's fine. That's good. She has a long career ahead of her. She has a lot of wins ahead of her. The Santos fight, I mean, really, this should be it because there's not a lot more where she can go. On our rankings, Blanchfield was number 3, Santos number 4, so she was already ahead of her, and it was just kind of like, well, that's the last test to pass. And I like that she had to kind of gut out a win because part of being a star, part of being a champion, as much as we love those meteoric rises, we just saw Sean O'Malley just soar to the top and had a big test against Jan, but before that, pretty smooth sailing and the Cheeto Vera fight, right? But for a young fighter like Blanchfield, potentially a future champion, you need to be able to win ugly. It just happens sometimes. You're going to need to win ugly. So I know people are going to point to the holes that may have been exposed defensively. Because she just walked through punches. She's young. She's just relying on her chin. But there's a lot of good tape for her to work with here. This fight will make her so much better. It's going to make her so much better in the long run. And in that regard, we will remember it should she become champion or even should she get a title shot within the next 6 months. So it was a big one for her. I hope people aren't discouraged. I hope this isn't a fight where people are like, well, I want to jump off the bandwagon now. Tyler Santos is really tough to put away. As we saw, a really well-rounded, skilled fighter. We saw that in the Shevchenko fight. We saw that in this fight. She did not get dominated in the grappling. I get it that she was somewhat, neutralized, but she didn't get dominated. She is a good grappler. And for Blanchfield to be able to do that was super, super, super impressive. So I'm still all in on the Blanchfield train. I didn't expect her to just truck Santos. But yeah, I'm still at the point. I'm still confident enough with Blanchfield where I'm not betting against her until she loses. I think she's that good. Even if she doesn't get I don't think that she's necessarily going to get that title shot next.
Yeah. I mean, look, and if Manon wins, she's getting the title shot. Like, Manon's not going to get over Aaron. There's no chance. If Rose wins, she'll probably get it because you just got to try to get as much out of much tread out of those tires as you can. But if Rose loses, Aaron's getting a title shot regardless. And that's fine. And she'll probably win. I would pick Erin Blanchfield against both of those women right now, against Valentina and Alexa Grasso, despite that performance and despite the taste that left in people's mouths. But I'd love to be able to continue the show, gentlemen. Let's do a little 3-shot here. I'd love to be able to be all joyous and excited here, but Bob Barker died. What the hell, man?
Yeah, man.
This has been like the worst week ever.
You can't break this on the show. You can't do this to people.
What am I supposed to
That's a
do?
bummer.
I'm not gonna.
That's a
I'm not
real
gonna sit here and lie to the world like I'm not thinking about this. But come on, 99. I mean, he was 99, so he lived a long and healthy, great life. As I've told the story before many times, growing up as a child, I wanted to be a game show host. I wanted to hold the skinny microphone like Bob Barker, like for years and years since I was like a 6-year-old kid. Loved Plinko, the greatest game show game of all time. Bob Barker, rest in peace, 99 years of age. Always get your pets spayed and neutered, as the great Bob Barker says. Man, that sucks. Terrible news.
Maybe all lasts to 99. What a life. What an incredible life that dude lived.
The best. My number one game show host of all time. The best. Love his withering humor. Loved how, he would contrast the enthusiasm of the insane contestants on The Price is Right without like insulting them. You know what I mean? He's not like everyone's having
There was some condensation. There was a little condensation.
But some people deserved it, and that's what you loved about Bob Barker. I love that show, and he's a legend. So that's a super sad news.
It has to just be a cool, like it's such a cool legacy if you have generations upon generations upon generations of people who would basically stay home from school sick watching you, right? Like every time I was out from school in elementary school, middle school, I'm watching Price is Right. I'm laying on the couch, whether I'm faking sick or not. Like I'm laying on the couch, I'm enjoying some Price is Right. Rest in peace, Bob Barker. Also, Happy Gilmore, man, iconic. Come on, man.
Oh yeah, one of the greatest movie fight, the most memorable movie fight of all time, outside of Roddy Piper and They Live. That was the second. This is the second most iconic movie fight of all time. Him just putting the wood to Happy Gilmore on the golf course at the Pepsi Pro-Am. Rest in peace, Bob Barker.
What can we do to get Mike Heck one of the skinny mics for the next time he's on site?
Dude, you want to get me a birthday present? That's the one. Like, I'll be indebted to you forever if I can get something like that. That'd be incredible.
Let me talk to the higher ups. Let me see what I can make something happen. We're gonna get Mike Heck on the big sticky.
There's going to if I get a skinny mic, there's gonna be like I'm gonna go buy a bunch of gift cards and I will just give away prizes on the street. Like we will just turn the whole city I'm covering events into one giant game show. Because and I'll wear suits. I will just wear suits every single day. I'll be like Barney Stinson in How I Met Your Mother. Suits all day, every day. I'll sleep in suits and I'll just be giving away stuff if I can get a skinny mic. Make that happen.
We're openly brainstorming at this point. Do like trivia with people on the street about whatever pay-per-view card is going on. I think people would watch. Y'all in the comments section, if you need to see Mike all suited up with a skinny mic doing street side trivia in New York City or whatever, let us know because I'm all in on this idea. This sounds tremendous.
I love it. All right, let's make this happen. You're getting me too excited right now. Yeah, man, Bob Barker. Junior Tafa knocks out Paca Porta, biggest upset in the history of MMA. Before that, Waldo Cortez Acosta. I didn't think we'd be talking about him ever getting a finish in the UFC. He was the king of heavyweight overs.
Oh.
Just put the wood on Lucas Bresky. Like, made him do the stanky leg, and then it wasn't even a face plant knockout. It was like a head plant knockout. That was nasty. Good for Waldo Cortez Acosta. He wants Derek Lewis at MSG in November. That's a pretty damn good call out right there. Garrett Armfield, I thought, got the big fat hose job when it comes to bonuses. Like, WCA's knockout was nasty. Garrett Armfield went out and looked like Pedro in 1999 on the Red Sox. This dude just pitched a near perfect game against Toshiyami Kazama. I mean, it just annihilated him. He looked spectacular. His first fight in over a year since stepping on less than a week's notice up a weight class against David freaking Onama, and he fought admirably on that card. Gets his first full camp at 135 in the UFC. Looks spectacular. Mikhail Ogzechek, Chidi and Jokawani. What a crazy-ass fight that was. Kenan Song back in the win column. Good fight with Rolanda Bedoya. Billy Goff on Zombie on Zombie Appreciation Day, looked like the New England Zombie himself, just walking through punches. Body shot KO, looked nasty. JJ Aldrich gets a KO, and Seung-Woo Choi kicks off the card. Fun fight with Jarno Aarons, gets back in the win column. This is a fun one. This is a fun card. This lived up to the expectations. I enjoyed it very much. So with that said, let's bring in Casey Lyden, Mr. 3024. Hopefully he's wearing, he's not wearing sleeves. Now he's got to hurt all our feelings with the pipes.
By the way, people in the poll, we did a little poll. How do you grade UFC Singapore? A 42%, B 43%. So overall, I thought they'd be
nice.
A's, but that's pretty strong. 85% A or B. Good time all around.
I feel like every morning card just instantly starts at like a higher level, right? Like if every card starts at a D and then you work your way up throughout the card, like morning cards start at C, and then you just got to give me a little bit to get to B and A. Like I'm just here for breakfast and fights.
Yeah. You give me a 10 a.m. Eastern start time, and you're automatically starting at like an A-, and you can only just you can barely go down from there. So
what did you guys have for breakfast during the fights? What was your?
I haven't eaten yet.
Not yet.
Is that a bowl of Frosted Flakes?
That's a terrible breakfast, AK. Jeez.
Nothing special.
Frosted Flakes?
That's right.
I mean, I like some cereal as a snack at night, which is very unhealthy, but I feel like cereal in the morning is even more unhealthy. I don't know why.
I never skip. I need the sugar. I need the big sugar boost.
I woke up super early, and I was the first car in the Dunkin' drive-through line and sat there for 10 minutes until they opened. And then I got my coffee, got my wife a coffee, got myself a bacon, egg, and cheese, hold the cheese on a plain bagel, carved up real nice to kick off this bad boy. Casey, what are the peeps talking about here? What are they talking about on the tail end of this pretty fun morning card?
I'm raising my hand. Can you call on me like a teacher?
Yes. You just talk, Shaheen.
I'm curious for all of us because we've all been in this game for a long time. So what's y'all's favorite TKZ memory?
For me, it starts with Leonard Garcia. I mean, that was. I'll talk about this more.
Well, which one? Which one?
You bet your the first. But you bet your ass I'm going to be on Damn this week because I know
WC pay-per-view. That one.
I know Jose Youngs is Mr. Zombie, but this dude means a lot to me too. As far as just my general fandom, because I'm a late bloomer, man. I'm late bloomer to MMA fandom. I was like mid 2000s maybe. It's like when I really just started getting into it. So right when the UFC was booming, I was caught up in that whole. I got on with all the other bandwagon jumpers, and jumped on with everybody else. And WC was like one of the first, not the first, but one of the, like when I started like, oh, let me watch something that's not UFC. Let me see what other MMA shows are. They had already been bought by Zuffa, so it was kind of like a UFC like product anyway. But that was, easier for me. It was like, okay, I know who Uriah Faber is. I know who Jose Aldo is. I'm gonna check this show out. And then I watched all the prelims too. And of course, it was closed out by Zombie Garcia 1, which was insane. Garcia, I knew from UFC. Oh, he was the other guy on the Sports Illustrated cover with Roger Huerta. So I had some familiarity there. And again, when you're a new fan, these things are important. I don't know if everyone remembers. I'm talking about you guys and also in the comments, like how you sort of became a fan, these sort of touchstones here and there, these moments that just gradually pulled you further in until you couldn't get out. And look where we are now. And that fight was so exciting. I felt like I knew enough about both guys. Like this was the first time I'd seen Zombie, but his name was the friggin' Korean Zombie. How could you not be immediately invested in the fight? They did a good job kind of giving you a little bit of his background. And then the fight was a friggin' all-time banger. It's one of my probably 10 for sure, top 10, but maybe 5 favorite fights I've ever seen. It was so good. So it has to be that fight. I maybe it was my first time understanding what a robbery was, because I remember I was like, oh well, I'm new to this. I'm new to this. I don't understand the scoring. I'm pretty sure the Korean guy won, but what do I know? So that was educational in that way too. And then again, it just led to, I think I know for a lot of people that was their first Zombie fight. I'm sure there's some hardcores out there who saw him before WC, but for me, I mean, that was the first time I ever saw him. And it has lingered in my mind ever since, and it's hard to beat that memory. Tonight was special though.
Yeah, it's a good one. There's so many, man. The Poirier fight is so good.
The Poirier
is just
amazing.
Incredible.
Poirier is mine.
I'm not going with
that, right? No one thought he would win that fight at all. Like that was DP's fight to win. DP was sort of the next title challenger. He was on a run, and then turns into fight of the year. Like if you've never seen, I think a lot of people watching this have probably never seen Dustin Poirier versus Korean Zombie. This very website that we all work for, awarded it Fight of the Year for 2012. Go back and watch that fight, y'all. Especially on Korean Zombie Day like today. Fucking bananas. Absolutely.
And that was
chaos. For just 4 rounds. It's incredible.
And that was on free TV, or that's like a Fuel TV
Yeah,
FX
Fuel
right?
TV.
Fuel TV.
And it was so cool. And that was when it was still so kind of cool and novel to have UFC on free TV. And you're like, oh sweet, like what a great like free fight to give away. And you just watched it and you're like, wow. And you and in the moment you're thinking, how many other people just saw this? And again, this was their first time watching MMA, or this was their first time seeing zombie fight, and you're like, this is a real like special moment. Like that was so awesome.
Dustin Poirier's interview afterwards. Yeah. Sorry, Mike, I didn't mean to cut you off, but Dustin Poirier's
go ahead. No, continue.
Afterwards was just I will always remember that interview of him in tears, just how much it meant to him. Like very, very young featherweight Dustin Poirier. It's so bizarre to look back on all of that now, but guys, seriously, go watch that fight if you haven't.
Was Garcia Zombie? Was that? Were we doing Fight of the Year then? Or did that get? That had to be top 2 or 3 that year, right?
What year was that? That was 2010. Let me look that up. Well,
the problem with that fight is like it was just a mid-card fight. It kind of came out of nowhere. That's why that one is my favorite fight, because it was so unexpected. I don't even think it was on the pay-per-view portion.
Okay.
It was just.
So I showed so many people that fight after, like, because I had people because again, now I thought that was cool. You know, I was like, oh, I have friends I know who like watch UFC way before I did, but they still mostly only watch UFC, and I'm like, oh, I found this fight that they don't know about, and then I took that fight to so many people, and everyone was like, wow, that was insane.
I was in Sacramento for that fight. I was in the arena, and that fight had just a magic feeling because people knew Leonard Garcia at the time, but no one really knew who Zombie was, and the way the arena just, I think it was whatever the Sacramento where the Kings play, it was just electric. Like I said, it was just a mid-card fight. No one was really expecting anything crazy, and it just blew everyone away. And I think that fight, I feel like that card has more memories from that fight than the actual. I think the main event, which I think was Faber getting his butt kicked. By Aldo.
It's exhibit number 1 on any like case of how to just make a fan base, an audience, whatever, an arena fall in love with you on first sight, even in a losing effort, right? Like like you said, I think a lot of people went into that not really knowing much about Chan Sung Jung, and then left being like, holy shit, this guy was awesome. I love this guy.
And you mentioned earlier, those shirts were everywhere. Like,
dude, these shirts were everywhere, man.
Very shortly after.
Credit to actually Dana White for actually promoting a fighter and not wearing a generic, DraftKings shirt or whatever, wearing a fighter shirt. I think not for when Zombie was fighting, but just kind of wearing it in general. And I remember it was Dana White wearing that shirt in particular that it's like kind of blew him up. The timing was perfect.
MMA t-shirts. Yeah. It's like one of the very first like iconic MMA merch.
And that was the time when the whole affliction thing was going crazy, and the Zombie just style and the look of the shirt was just totally different, and it really just stuck out. And it's a great design, and just the mark. Yeah, Zombie's awesome.
Also, yes. Casey, to answer your question from earlier, Fight of the Year 2010, it was on our list. 2010 was also a really tough year to win Fight of the Year. Also happening in 2010, Anthony Pettis, Benson Henderson, final WEC show.
Yeah.
Hard to beat that. That ended up winning. And also,
did something happen in that fight that people talk about? I don't remember. Was there a moment in that fight that people? I
think Benson Henderson got knocked out.
I've never seen a clip from. I've never seen.
He didn't get knocked out.
I know.
He didn't get knocked out.
What do you mean?
I love that.
I love that.
I love that.
Oh, now I remember. I've seen that clip. What do you mean? He got knocked out cold, Casey.
Yeah, he knocked out cold.
Now that I think about it. Yeah.
Also, maybe one other notable event that happened or fight that happened that year. A little guy named Anderson Silva scored one of the greatest comebacks of all time against Chael Sonnen. So tough year.
Yeah.
Still pretty good. That's still pretty good. By the way, the correct answer for best Zombie moment is the Dennis Bermudez fight, because Zombie was coming. The last time we had seen him was the Jose Aldo fight, and then we lost the real prime of his career due to the mandatory military service. So it was 50 months. It was over 4 years between Zombie fights. Comes back. Long. Yeah, it was Jose Aldo was UFC 163. It was August 2013. February 2017 is when he fought again. And he headlined an event in Houston, Texas against Dennis Bermudez. 2 minutes and 49 seconds. KOs Dennis Bermudez. One punch. Yep. Just deads him with one punch. And we're like, all right, dudes back. And it took us the time between like a summer Olympic games before we could get Zombie back in the octagon. It was just such a cool moment because we were all wondering, like, when's he coming back? When's he coming back? Oh, now he's back. Can he beat this really tough out in Dennis Bermudez over 5 rounds? This guy's the cardio king. He'll just take this guy down over and over again. Zombie's like, nah, I'm not going to let you do it. I'm just going to punch you right in the face and you're going to sleep. So, yeah, and so many great moments.
And also on that card, who lost in the co-main event?
Oh, I forgot about that.
Alexa Grasso lost a decision to Felice Herrig. And that was kind of like, oh, I guess we're off the Grasso hype train. I guess she was all hype. And
then... Look at this card. James Vick got a sub. Volkan Ozdemir beat OSP. Jessica Andrade beat Angela Hill.
That was a great fight. Andrade Hill is still one of the best strawweight fights in UFC history.
Yes. That's a great fight. That was a great fight.
Yep.
Mike, I'm so glad you mentioned the military service and what we missed with Zombie, because you're right. Like when that Aldo fight happened, Zombie was 26. And then the next time we didn't saw him, he was basically 30 years old. Like we missed 26 to like 29 basically for this guy who you knew he had like 4 more bangers just in the chamber waiting to fire over that time. Like, man, to be able to have given us what he gave us over the time that he did give us is incredible considering the amount of time that he missed, right? And like important time in his career.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if we want to get into this, but like I'm all about Zombie being a UFC Hall of Famer on his own merit, not a fight, just on his own merit.
Oh,
kind of like on the Cerrone kind of thing. I'm all aboard at that.
Me too, but my bar.
I think he was higher level than Cerrone, but I get Cerrone, Cerrone, but I don't know.
I think for UFC Hall of Fame, second make him wait a couple years.
Yeah.
For UFC Hall of Fame, I can see it because I think the bar has been, I don't want to say lowered because that feels disrespectful, but like it's not the bar isn't as high as I think for like a baseball Hall of Fame, right? Or something like that, where like you have to be like a really elite tier to be able to get into it. Like there are guys like Matt Serra in there and Donald Cerrone, whoever you want to throw out there, who like never really were that guy at their point at any point in their career, who are able to get in. So I can see it in that respect. MMA Hall of Fame, it wouldn't feel exactly right. Like he's definitely the Hall of Fun, the Hall of Very Good, the Hall of I love you so fucking much. But like I don't know if a Hall of Fame would be fitting. But for fights, like he would get in for like 3 or 4 different fights, right?
So if we put him for 3 or 4 different fights, let's put him in as an individual too. That's all.
Yeah, I'd put him in. My bar is lower than most for Hall of Fames in general. I'm a pretty like avid. I don't say what's a word? What do you call it? Someone who pays attention to other sports Hall of Fames. I don't know why I find them fascinating. Baseball, NBA, NFL. I don't know. I'm always paying attention when they announce their Hall of Fame things. So my bar is pretty low, I guess, maybe based on how those sports have treated it. And I don't understand the only champions talk, because if you only want it to be champions, then just like go to Wikipedia. There you go. There's your Hall of Fame. Just go list of UFC champions at Wikipedia.
There's a lot of UFC champions that should not be in the Hall of Fame.
Right. I'm fine with it. I'm fine putting Zombie in, Jim Miller, Don Cerrone. The champions for me is not the be all end all of like, were you a great fighter? Were you a memorable fighter? Did you achieve things? Especially, as we've said many times, title fights are determined by the promotion, not necessarily by merit. So, why are we making that such a high bar, such a important barometer for whether someone gets in? Right? He's a shoe-in for me. But again, so is Jim Miller, so is Cerrone.
Yeah, because Zombie had something different. It's not really his tapology win losses. It's more how. I think why we're talking about him so much. He inspired us. It's hard to describe, but there's certain fighters that just inspire us as fans, and Zombie had that. Even getting knocked out tonight, cold, we're like, that was inspiring, and that's how many fighters can you really say that about? And that's why I think Zombie is such a special fighter. It's hard to describe. I have to think about it more. But just hearing you guys talk about him made me go, dang, I'm going to miss that dude. And every time he fought, it was must-watch TV. Even if he knew like, he was going to get his butt kicked. Even when he fought Volk, he's like, oh, he's going to get slaughtered. But you wanted to watch, and you were still just inspired by his heart that he put out there. So that's my case for it.
I don't hate it. I 100% would not hate it.
Yeah. I mean, I treat the UFC Hall of Fame like the WWE Hall of Fame. It's not the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. It's WWE Hall. And Bob Uecker is in the WWE Hall of Fame. So I think the Korean Zombie can.
The great
And I love Bob Uecker. Love Bob Uecker. But yeah, if you want to throw Zombie in the Hall of Fame, who's going to complain about that? Come on.
Yeah, can you imagine people booing, boo.
Yeah, right. Like, about that. Oh man,
right.
We'll take a couple questions.
Yes.
If you got any, I'm sure there's a bunch.
I actually have a couple. Actually, let's talk about the card real quick.
Question of the panel: who gained the most and who lost the most at UFC Singapore, in your opinions? AK, who do you think? Who gained the most? Who lost the most?
Off the top of my head, Ryan Spann lost the most because I don't know what I may be being too harsh on this fight. This is what I wrote. This is what I wrote ahead very quickly. I was predicting the fight. I predicted a Spann win because one, it's just super hard to beat someone twice in MMA at this level, and I just thought Spann had a good chance of winning the first fight. He just kind of had a bad game plan. If you wonder, he kind of like slugged it out in a weird way in that first fight and got caught and then got submitted. So I'm like, he trains now. So I'm like, should be a totally different fight. And I concluded my prediction by saying, frankly, if he goes 0-2 against Anthony Smith, maybe it's Spann who may want to consider where his career is heading. Because I think there was a lot of talk about Anthony Smith before this, like, oh, is he ready to move on if he loses? He's been in a lot of wars. He's up there in age. He has options. He's got a lot of broadcasting options. Retirement, no one would blame Anthony Smith if he had retirement in his mind. And I'm not saying Ryan Spann should retire. But boy, I don't know what this like. I think we had hopes for this guy in a relatively weak division that he could do something. But when you fail to pounce on an opportunity like he had in round 2 and put a stamp on this fight, and then you win I can only call it lose a disappointing decision. I think his stock has plummeted. Wherever that stock was, I have to think it's plummeted. Again, that's just my first reaction. I'm not looking at the whole card again. So if someone has another option, I'll be the downer here and say, boy, I don't know what Ryan Spann does now.
Gene?
No, I would agree with that in terms of who lost the most, right? Like Ryan Spann's now 3-4 over his last 7. This felt like a pretty important one to prove that he can be a guy who could maybe be, if not the top of this division, like sort of just floating around that top, being able to get into these type of matchups. And very puzzling performance today, like AK. I would agree with that. Who gained the most? I mean, is it cliche to say Anthony Smith? He kind of saved his career, right? Like he had to win this fight. If he doesn't win this fight, where is he? He might be getting called for there might be like retirement calls if Anthony Smith doesn't win this one.
I feel like there are retirement calls every fight for him.
Yeah.
That's like 3 or 4 fights. I feel like that's been like the storyline. And I think Anthony Smith is that chip on the shoulder type of guy. Like, he hears that. And I think maybe earlier in his career he folds in that second round, but I'm not gonna poop on Ryan Spann as much as give credit to Anthony Smith for gutting it out and winning that third round. And you're right, Shaheen, about the messed up scoring system, because Ryan Spann honestly won that fight. But
Pride rules, he wins.
Yeah, he won the fight, but he lost the scorecard, and that's what matters.
Nate, it's the Diaz scoring system, baby. Who would you rather be at the end of the fight? I'd rather be Ryan Spann. Yeah.
Well, Anthony Smith got 2 checks, so I don't know.
Well, sure. I'm talking about the very end of the fight, before they hand out the money.
Okay, before they look at their bank account, yeah.
Yeah, right. Who lost the most is Ryan Spann, like unequivocally.
Yeah.
Remember November? He knocked out Dominic Reyes, and like it was like a sad thing. But then Ryan Spann got on the mic and said, "Look, I've done all this without actually trying. Like, I didn't train. I didn't try. Like, I just was like, oh, I got to fight. I'll just show up to the fight." And he's like, but before this fight, like, I'm in the gym 5-6 days a week. Like, I'm taking this real seriously. And for curmudgeons like Jed Meshew and even myself, like, I'm super stubborn. When I'm in on a fighter, like, I'm in on him. When I'm not in on him, like, it's really hard to flip me. And that night, in that speech, Ryan Spann flipped me. I was like, all right, like, this dude's like taking this seriously. Like, I'm a full-time fighter. Let's go. And then he jumps Gilly, gets tapped in the first round, and then this happens. And I'm just like, man, like, where have things gone over these last 9 months? you flip me and now you flip me right back. So it's definitely that. And you might be right. If it's not Anthony Smith, it's Erin Blanchfield as far as who gained the most. Because I think she needed to open some eyes, and maybe that's not the performance we're going to remember from her through the 6-fight run so far. But even on like a not great day, she still was good enough to beat Tyler Santos, who just nearly ended the streak of Valentina Shevchenko in her most recent fight. So
I think if you're the next opponent of Blanchfield, I think even though his fans that maybe that wasn't the 15-minute butt kicking we were expecting, but I think that made Erin Blanchfield even more dangerous because she took a whooping in that first round and she didn't fold. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I don't want to sound too cliche, but like, like Bisbee's like, oh, you can tell she's a fighter, and that's important. That's important. She's not just a front runner. She took a whooping, came back. She came back and won that fight. That's really it's hard to do in MMA. You lose that first round, especially how she was losing. I'm guessing 95% of fighters wind up losing the fight or losing the decision. She came back against a very, very tough opponent, and technically it wasn't her best performance, but I think grit, heart, fighter, it was awesome for her.
Also,
that's
Mike,
scary, man.
Yeah, Mike, no one will ever blame you for getting got by the. I wasn't trying. Now I'm trying. I mean, Big Brother's been hitting Little Brothers with that since the beginning of time. bro, you beat me in Mario Kart because I wasn't trying. Like, wait till I started playing.
Yeah.
We've all gotten that.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But
don't ever fall for that. When fighters say that, it's like, oh, now I'm trying. Now I'm gonna try harder next fight. Like, no. That's actually, to me, that's a cautious sign.
When human beings say it, it's a cautious sign, not just fighters. Anybody who's done that is lying.
But like Brandon Royval, like, was true, right? Like he was just like the exciting dude, and then he was like, all right, I got a bonus in this fight, so now I can train full time, and now it's the year of the raw dog.
That's different.
I can quit my job and actually train. That's something different.
That's kind of what Ryan was talking about. That's kind of
well, if he was like,
I don't know. Do you think so? It kind of, to me, it felt like I wasn't putting effort into this, and now I am.
It's like a bit of both, but more so imagine what I could do if I actually like went to the gym 5 times a week. And
bro.
Yeah.
I was throwing away all these red shells, these blue shells that I was getting. Now I'm gonna start using them. You brought this upon me.
I dumped the star. I ran into the green shell on purpose that nobody gets hit by, just so I could let you win. Yeah, that's super funny.
All right, and
the backwards green shell, sneaky. It'll get you.
Oh,
every time.
The worst ever is when you get green shells and you shoot them in front of you and they bounce back.
And then it gets right at you.
It goes right at you. There's nothing worse than that.
Only thing worse than that is when you get the banana and you put it at this exact spot that you think everybody's going to get.
In the next lap, you get your own banana.
You on the next time around because you're like, oh, I'm the only one who takes this exact route on this.
When you hit your own banana, it's the worst. Oh, man. We need to. We'll talk more off camera about this. Shaheen, we'll have more
Mario Kart.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Mario Kart tournament.
AK's not here for the Mario Kart talk.
Dude, there's so many new courses. It's insane. Okay, sorry.
You got questions. Someone was asking Shaheen, where is the shirt still available? The zombie shirt.
Dude, I got this like 10 years ago. I have no idea.
Yeah, my shirt's. I have one of those too. I didn't even. Yeah.
I've been in this game. Come on.
Yeah.
Who does Max fight next? AK, do not answer this question because we got to get you on the podcast network. Shaheen, who does Max Holloway fight next?
Oh man, that's a great question. Give me 2 seconds. Go to Casey. I'm looking at rankings right now.
Casey, who does Max fight next?
2 options.
Dude, I don't know.
If Aljo goes up, that's the 45 option. If what I really want is him to go to 55 and fight anybody at 55. I don't care. I just want to see Max at 55. It can be anyone, honestly. Anyone in the top 10. That's all I care.
Casey nailed it. Those are the 2. I mean, Mike, we talked about this on the and AK too. We talked about this on the ranking show this week of you sold me, Mike, on the Aljo matchup, right? Like that. Like I don't think Aljo is going to beat Max, but at some point somebody's going to beat Max who's not Alexander Volkanovski, right? Like it's just inevitable that somebody will do it. Maybe Aljo could be that guy, and then that's the only way he's going to be able to shortcut himself to a title there at 145 if he's trying to get out of the way from Merab. Otherwise, though, give me the lightweights. Come on, man. Just give me the lightweights. I want to see it. Let me see it.
Yeah. If Dustin had beat Justin at 291, my immediate pick would have been it's Max versus Gaethje. Like, that's the fight. And that fight could still happen, but Gaethje's not going to fight Max Holloway right now. He's just not. He's going to wait for the winner of Makhachev Oliveira, and he's going to fight for the title because it might be his last chance to fight for an undisputed UFC title. So I think the Gaethje Holloway fight can always be there. And if you want to do Holloway Poirier, like, I'm certainly going to watch that. But yeah, Aljo, focus all of your attention on Max. You don't even have to win. Just get in there and be somewhat competitive. Just don't get 49-46 by Max. And I think you make a good statement and you make yourself a case of getting to a title shot because you're not getting the Sean O'Malley rematch anytime soon. Yeah, that's where I'm at.
How about Beneil Dariush? Max Holloway, Beneil Dariush.
Anything.
Yeah, I don't hate it.
I just want to give him someone highly ranked.
No.
Okay. Lay it on me, matchmaker.
No, because Arman Sarukian deserves that fight. Enough is enough. That dude he does not need to wait any longer to fight a Beneil Dariush. That dude deserves this opportunity. I will say this, though, because I think Jed brought this up on the preview show. If, and probably when, if we're being honest, Islam Makhachev defeats Charles Oliveira, you want to give me Max Holloway versus Charles Oliveira too, sign me the F up for that fight. I'm cool with that. But Benny's got to fight Benny's got to fight Sarukian next, in my opinion.
I don't hate it. Also, Michael Chandler, sorry you didn't get Connor. Here's Max.
Ooh, that's not a bad idea either. That's pretty good.
And
see, there's options.
Yeah,
we're workshopping it. We're workshopping.
One last question before we carry on with our afternoons or our mornings.
Yes. Question: do you take the first showcase or pass for the second, like a man of culture?
Whoa, I think it depends. I don't think there can't be a hard and fast rule on this, right?
There's an unwritten rule that you always pass for the second.
Why?
You go for big, baby.
The second is always bigger.
Yeah, dude. Like, I don't
watch the Price is Right.
AK,
I never made that connection.
You see a wave runner, you see a bike, and you see a trip to Roanoke, Virginia, and a hot tub, and you're like, "Wow, that's kind of cool."
And then you pass your personal craps table. They get you the craps. Oh, you got a craps table, yeah.
And then you pass this, to the second, and Roddy would be like, "Well, let's take this little trip. Oh, it's a disaster. A tornado struck. But what did the tornado drop down? A brand new car." It was the way cooler one that was worth like
here's the real answer.
$80,000 more than the first showcase. Wow. And then the first showcase was like $21,230, and you just sit there screaming at the TV like, so far over. How much do you think this whirlpool costs, dude?
Well, here's the real answer though. It doesn't matter because if you're me, you're guessing close enough that you win both anyway. So it doesn't even matter.
Gotta get it within a hundo, AK. I think I've only seen it once.
No problem.
Ooh.
Every time. No, that's not true. I don't think I've.
And that's even with the conversion. That's even with the conversion, AK.
I have to do the math in my head. Yeah, I think the conversion actually helps. I think it centers me. So yeah.
Ooh, I love it.
Someone in the comments just said the dreaded elliptical machine.
Elliptical machine. That's what all these people want.
So true.
Price is Right.
So true. Hello. Good comment. Good comment from Hello. Yeah.
You know what's funny? Like as a kid growing up watching that, I'll be like, ooh, whatever. But now as an adult, I'm like, ooh, new washer and dryer.
Right?
I get it now. Yeah, I get it now.
Now you're talking my language.
Daddy needs a new microwave. Let's go.
Everything changes as you get older.
I wonder.
The price is. Yeah, go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
I was gonna say the Price is Right taught me what Rice-A-Roni was. I had no idea what Rice-A-Roni was until I watched Price is Right. Featured every episode on whatever game you had a bid. Is it this Rice-A-Roni? It's $1.79 over or under. The San Francisco treat. Go ahead, Shaheen.
I thought you were gonna hit us with the Price is Wrong. Cool. I was very excited for it. It got a little flutter in my heart. We're always trying to iterate on like, hey, what's some new show ideas? What's some new stuff we could pull out that people would dig? What's like an MMA version of Price is Right? Price is Right is so universally beloved. How could we turn that into an MMA show with Mike Heck with the pencil mic?
Statistics. some sort of thing. Like you just run through the career of Max Holloway and like certain significant strikes he landed in fights. You just can't cheat though. That's the thing. You have to. Technology is so much different now that you could just like if you do a virtual show, you could just cheat and you could just look up, go to UFC stats.
It's got to
That's
be
why
in
it's
person.
super fun. Oh yeah, it's got to be in person.
But I also like once you calling people down from the crowd and they got to be like real hype, like the whole vibe, you know.
You gotta look at the
Shaheen.
crowd like, what?
Shaheen, you see these? These are goosebumps. Like these are goosebumps. They're happening right now with just the mere thought of this. You want to put me on a stage and host an MMA game show in front of people? I'm in. You want to make a man's dream come true? You give me that opportunity plus a skinny mic, and like I don't know what else I could do. I don't know what else I could do.
As a deputy editor on this site, this is my mission. I'm gonna figure out a way to make this happen.
Oh, speaking of skinny Mike.
Skinny Mike Heck, new mythical media member.
Oh,
I love the double working of that nickname with Mike and Mike. Like we got something here.
I'm telling you, my mind is blown. This has been the greatest. This has been my personal favorite post-fight show in the history of post-fight shows. With all the emotions that have come over. Casey, you can hit the music. I don't know what else. I don't know how much better we could do this. Once again, Korean Zombie, applause, standing ovation for your incredible career. There you go. Well done, Zombie. Thank you for the great memories. Max Holloway gets the job done. Sorry, Shiloh, stepped on your tail by accident. It was a good day.
For a good cause,
It was for a good cause. More early day MMA next weekend. UFC back at Paris. Cyril Gane versus Sergey Spivak. Wow, the year of our Lord 2023. We're getting 2 Sergey Spivak main events. Who would have thunk it? But that's what we're getting. And then it's on to Noche UFC. And it's off to Sydney, then Noche UFC. Yeah. By the way, what'd you guys think of that UFC 293 main card that was deemed unbelievable by the broadcasters?
Took the words out of my mouth.
it is unbelievable.
I can't
paying
believe
$80 is unbelievable for that.
To quote Alexander Cayley on our Slack, unbelievable could mean a lot of things.
That means a lot.
The watch party is going to be electric, ladies and gentlemen. So we'll see you then. So for Shaheen, Casey, for AK, I am Mike Heck. Thank you for watching. Good day, everybody.
Love you guys. Love you,
Have your
TKZ.
pets, have your
Love
pets
you,
spayed and
Papa.
neutered.
Aw.